After Trump's win, some women are considering the 4B movement. South Korean women carry flags reading feminist during the rally in Seoul earlier this year to mark International Women's Day. CNN. In the hours and days since it became clear that Donald Trump would be re-elected president of the United States, there's been a surge of interest in the US for 4B. Young liberal women across the TikTok and Instagram are discussing and sharing information about the South Korean feminist movement, in which straight women refuse to marry, have children, date, or have sex with men. These women say they are enraged and fed up after the majority of their male counterpart voted for the candidate who was found liberal for sexual abuse and whose appointment of three conservative Supreme Court justices led to an overturning of national abortion right protections. In response, they say they are swearing off men and they are encouraging others around the country to join them. We have pandered and begged for men's safety and done all the things that we are supposed to, and they still hate us. Achille Pollard, a 36-year-old in St. Louis, told CNN. So if you are going to hate us, then we are going to do what we want. Trump says he is going to protect women whether they like it or not. What is the 4B movement? 4B is the shorthand for the four Korean word bihon, 비출산, 비 연애, 연애, and 비섹스, which translated to no marriage, no childbirth, no dating, and no sex with men. The 4B movement emerged in South Korea around 2015 or 2016 per Judy Han, an assistant professor in gender studies in the University of California, Los Angeles, mostly popular among young women in their 20s. She described it as the fringe offshoot of Me Too and the other feminist movement that arose in response to stark gender inequality in the country. In 2016, a woman was brutally killed near a Seoul subway station. The perpetrator reportedly said he killed her because she felt ignored by women. The incident prompted a national reckoning around how women are treated in the country, expanding to include conversations around femicide, revenge porn, and digital sex crimes. The woman places the flower for a South Korean woman who was stabbed to death at the exit of Gangnam subway station in Seoul in May 21st, 2016. Feminism and gender divide have been hot button issues in South Korea. Women in the country are paid about one-third less than men, according to data from the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development, the highest wage gap among OECD nations. And despite being one of the world's most advanced economies, women there are scarcely represented in senior and managerial roles. The 4B movement was decentralized and existed in various iterations online and offline, making it difficult to access its true size and scale. Over the years, the movement has dismissed and splintered over disagreement about the role of queer and trans women, according to Han. But she says 4B and other South Korean feminist movement drew attention to gender inequality in the country and emphasized collective action. It's not very a widespread movement, but the sentiment behind it, I think a lot of people empathize with. Han says, when there is such a widespread violence against women, there is such a systemic discrimination and inequality. When there is so much that make marriage, childbirth, and child rearing difficult, why and how could anyone imagine getting married and giving birth? Though South Korea's 4B movement mostly faded from media headlines in recent years, the US election has renewed interest. A lot of us, straight or not, queer or not, whether you're in a marriage or not, are going to be in the same boat, dealing with the oppressive and violent institutions, Han says, and we see each other. The US election is inspiring conversation about 4B. It's far too early to tell whether the 4B movement might seriously catch on in the US, but so far, at least, it's generated a lot of online discussion among young women. Some women are discovering the movement anew and are vowing to join. Others who are already married or partners up to say they plan to protest in other ways, such as boycotting male-owned businesses or refusing to do emotional labor for men. Pollard says she learned about South Korea's 4B movement a few years ago, inspiring her to examine what a life looks like without centering man so deeply. Since 2022, she says she hasn't dated or slept with men and has realized that she's better off on her own. She has the resources to support herself without marriage, and she plans to have a child alone. Her decision to disengage from man wasn't necessarily an act of vengeance, she says. Rather, it was about putting herself first. Now that other women around the country have taken an interest in 4B, she says she wants them to realize that they have other options. You push people far enough and they're done, she says. How will that affect politics? We will see, but I think that women and their joy is going to be something that cannot really be overlooked anymore. Women are choosing themselves in droves. Alexa Vargas, a 26-year-old from Boston, says she stopped engaging with men a few years ago after a series of unhealthy relationships that includes abuse and assault. And it wasn't until earlier this year that she realized that there was a movement and language that aligned with her actions. Though she says that men need a wake-up call, her decision is more about herself and the other women. I don't think if men are going to change their ways, I don't think how this is going to pan out, she says. My goal in life and in this movement is to protect young women and girls. Women who have been talking about phobia online says the way some men have responded to their posts are already proving their point. Abby Kate, a 27-year-old from Florida, recently broke up with her boyfriend over dismissive comment he made about Trump's history of sexual abuse. When she posted a video about that and her decision to join the 4B movement, she says men flooded her DMs with death threat and hateful comment about her appearance. It doesn't exist. It doesn't actually exactly entice you to re-enter the dating pool. She added. Some are skeptical 4B will catch on. In Han's view, the 4B movement is unlikely to become mainstream in the US. She says she relies too heavily on the gender binary and that those inspired to join it as the result of the election are overlooking the fact that plenty of women voted for Trump too. Though Vice President Kamala Harris maintained the edge with women, exit polls indicate that her lead was smaller than President Joe Biden's or former Secretary of State Hillary Clinton's during their respective presidential campaigns. The Hadia Kanani, a 24-year-old from Florida, also has reservations about 4B in the U.S. Though she hasn't engaged with men romantically for several years in an effort to prioritize herself, she wants women to dig deeper and examine their own role in upholding patriarchy. She also worries about the consequences of further isolating men. The conversation online has been centered around sleeping with men and dating men, obviously to protect yourself. But I just feel like misogyny and patriarchy is much deeper than that, she says. I think a lot of it is rooted in the way that men are raised in society. Even if large numbers of women don't adopt the strict tenet of 4B, those who are taking part for now hope the recent conversations around it lead women to think about themselves and their circumstances differently. I don't ever expect everyone in America to hold hands and agree not to date men. Abby Kay says, I could definitely see it fueling change in some way. Han predicts that American interest in the 4B movement will subside quickly. Still, she hopes that the recent discourse it will help women understand that they aren't alone in their struggles and build solidarity with others around the world. I think a lot of American women are trying to find ways to seek empowerment and find a way to survive, Han says. And I hope what they found is not necessarily a particular movement like a 4B movement, but a recognition that struggles for reproductive justice and gender equality are certainly not just American concerns. CNN's Lida Joy Avikanari contributed to this report.